Welcome to the Language of Markets live sessions. It is Freaky Friday, the 31st. Take one. Hey, Evan, I need a director. That's what we'll do. We'll get a director's chair up in here. And no, Edward's the director. We'll get Edward a director's chair. We'll put his name on it. Put funny pictures on it. And then we'll go from there. I think that'll work. And I'm sure we have some artists in here that can make a nice caricature of him. And we'll make our own little Edward image. Got my imagination working overtime today, huh? You already have a director's chair? I bet you do. All right, it's Freaky Friday. We're going to do some work today. Before we get started, just some quick admin. We've been using a link, so we've just been everybody in here for free the last week or so, week or two. But the link will change, right? The website's cooking, kind of, and the link will change this weekend. And how you get the link, just a reminder, is you must be logged in. It won't show up unless you're logged in, and you won't be logged in unless you pays your money. So once you're logged in, you can get the link right from the home page. Just click. That'll be the GoToMeeting link. You don't have to register. If you want, you can save the link somewhere so you don't have to get it from the site. It'll be the same link for the whole month next month, one way or the other. And it's just basically going to change monthly, and then same as usual, and we'll get used to that. So you get logged in, you can get it here. The other place you can see it, there's really only two places on this website that's doing anything right now. And it's really the only places you're going to spend time on at all, other than I'm going to do a blog, and we're going to put some downloadable stuff and resources. I'm going to do a how to set up your Ensign. Nate did some nice money management things for us. But the only other place you're going to be is LOM Live, and this is where you're going to watch the recordings. And when you're watching the recordings, when you're logged in, you can watch the recording. This is the other place you can get the GoToMeeting link. And as always, if you have problems, this is easy. We're a small outfit. I mean, I like it that way. We don't have tons of people. We're never going to have tons of people. And it's easy. Email Wendy, email me. Make sure you get the link going. Okay? So you have to be logged in, and we're going live pretty much next week. Any questions? And just email if you got any questions on that. So the GoToMeeting link's easy. I showed you how you can get to your account page, where you can do, your account, where you can change, you can cancel me or give me the boot. Or you can, upgrade to an annual. But that's pretty much it. Nice and simple. All right. I think that's all the news. So we'll be lighting up next week for sure. And I hope to see everybody. Now today, we're going to follow up a few of the markets we were watching, because that's where a lot of juice comes from. We're going to follow up a few of the markets we were doing. And I had some questions from people we're going to answer. And, we're going to work into one of our framework methods that we'll be playing with for the next few weeks and creating from. And so we're just going to go how we go today. We'll see how much time we have. Once we get talking, I always love it. There's so much to learn. And I don't want anybody to forget that part. The learning part. When we have a trade and we're reviewing our trade or our old trades, it's really not about whether the trade worked for us or didn't work for us. The more time you pause and spend looking at it, the more you can learn something. The more price can teach you, when you do a trade, the more price can teach you something about yourself, number one, and something about itself. And that's where the juice comes from in this. This is what I'm emphasizing we do. We're going to learn the techniques, and I'll be demonstrating what I'm talking about as we go. But if you spend time and you just pause, and we go so fast. If you spend a little time on your review work, just like we spend time here talking an hour about a chart, different things. You guys have already noticed this in your own experience. Different things start to show up, right? You guys know that, right? We spend some time, and then all of a sudden there's a question, and oh, there's something else. That's learning. And it's very important to learn from what we're doing. And price is beautiful. It's going to teach us about ourselves trading, and it's going to teach us about what it does if we look. Not where the magic line is, but we'll get a little bit of a sense. Okay, what's true structure here? What actually stopped this thing? Is there something to learn from that? And then when you see that over and over and over, now we're tackling this in an effective way like real traders. We're tackling this whole thing about our craft in an effective way when we do this way. And all I can do is start to talk about it, because I do this with students. You know, we work our way and we sit on a chart and we work it, and then we start to learn. And then we'll be doing some of this as we go. Just as a for instance. So I got a chart from Winston. Thank you. Right? Hadn't sent me a chart, but he's all ready now. And he's looking at the yen. All right? He mapped the yen out. And it wasn't much of a question, but, you know, he sent a chart. Thank you. And he mapped the yen out. All right? And he articulated what he did. Okay? He articulated what he did in here to me, which is a good thing, because we need to articulate that stuff for ourselves. It says I put the blue ML to see what happened if AB projected CD. Instead, price gapped up to this. And so he articulated this, and he drew this, okay? Then he said, then it wouldn't be a surprise if price dips lower. And so he's talking, and he's working it, and he sent this to me. And my reply to these things is, you know, thank you for the chart. And now that you've got some things marked out, all right, no matter what you do with the trade, let's see what we can learn from it. This was my reply to Winston, right? So this was obviously sent the other day. So now we're moving, we're live, we're real. He put himself on the line here, right? He's thinking obviously about a possible long up to here. He's got something marked out here, a gap. And he's marking gaps out. And so we can now learn from this. That's the important part. Yes, we'll learn the techniques. But that's the important part of this. We want to learn afterwards, because that gets taken into next week and next week and next, and it builds up. It's like a mist that you don't know that's, you know, and all of a sudden you're wet. And then all of a sudden you're seeing things you never saw before. You don't even realize the change happened to you. Because it takes time. I know we all want to do things quick and get the results and get to where we're going. I appreciate that. But sometimes trying to get there faster actually slows us down. And so, since this is, and I've been saying this anyway, since this is our own site, I'm just going to talk real. You have to do the slow part as you're learning. And I don't care how good you are. You have to go at your own pace, and you have to learn. It's never just going to be a system or a setup. So let's see what we can learn from this guy. And in this, what else I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of give you a little lesson on how you can review your markets at the end of the week to get some of this learning. So let's first put in what he had. And he was live right around here. And I hope everybody's getting my point that, you know, it's important to see and learn from what went on afterwards after you went ahead and put yourself on the line. Okay, you went ahead, put yourself on the line, you drew some stuff, you took a stand, you said, all right, I framed price, I got it. Now let's see what I can learn. Let's see, what else did he draw? He drew, basically looking at this swing, right? He drew this swing with a modified shift. So as you can see, it's that length, like that, and it's beating that length. And he was drawing a minor gap. And for those of you that haven't been in the gap lessons, we'll get there. And he was drawing a major gap. And he was thinking about buying the major gap for a trip. And then he also had this gap. Okay? So this was his chart, basically. And so let's see what we can learn from this. Automatically, we know that price had beat that swing out. And so going forward, price held the minor gap, and we know it's the minor gap because we know how to mark out this language here, this language of price. Price held the backside of this modified shift. See zoom, retest, see the line. See, that's a little bit of learning there too. That can be just done simply by, like this. That's a little bit of learning there too. Zoom, retest. And so that's interesting. We see that in Andrew's rules. Hey, Aaron, he used the next low for the blue A. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Good eye, Aaron. Comes out to pretty much the same thing, right? Pretty much the same thing. Yeah. And so we learned something right there. While you can use that, I would tend to say, let's grab the next, the structure of this guy. Let's grab the structure of this guy. And what I mean by that is just draw a line off the low, and you see a little probe, and then, okay, we're starting to go through. So, that's kind of the structure of that guy. That's kind of the structure in that guy. Okay, I know it's another little swing technically, but it doesn't matter. They both get you about the same place. So let's see what happened. We go towards the upper median line. We pop, and boom. All right, so beautiful. There's so much learning, whether he took a long trade, didn't get a long trade, or whatever. There's so much learning to be had from this that I want you to get surprised. One of the things I think he did was he got all set up for a long. Even though he drew this guy, I'm not sure he considered a short. But either way, we look, what did stop price? We're in an upper parallel, and it was his gap. See, this isn't mine. It was his drawing. I think the only other little thing he might have missed, since he was doing gaps, this would have been a minor gap. And so let's learn from that. So this would have been what we call a major, which I'll put in gray. And this guy here would have been a minor. Boom, 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 pop. See the story come alive? And so this is using minor and major gap down, minor and major gap up. And we can learn from that. See, there's a story come alive. And then we have choices. We can sell the push here. We can buy the reverse on the minor. We can sell the push off the gray. But it was his marking. Okay, he did that, and so he saw that. He saw that better than 95% of the pros out there doing whatever they're trying to do. Executing, we go into a whole nother story here, but it starts with seeing. All right. So there's learning that can come from this. Let's do some more learning. Now, I want to treat this as sort of a review work, just so you guys can start thinking about this. I'm going to tighten up this into a lesson one day, but you get to the weekend, you're off the hot seat, it's time to learn. You have some simple tools, and you want to kind of get curious about what this market did. Because the more you see things, the more they soak in. And we can start with some very basic, simple tools. We can start with some very basic, simple tools like swings. And so there's different ways we can go about reviewing this thing. You can review it with just gaps, or you can review it with swings. But if we were to review it with swings, I'm going to kind of get curious here and go like this. Remember, this is the weekend. So let's say we're going to review it with just what we did the other day we were practicing on. Okay? As you get a market swinging, we're going to follow the major reaction legs, and as the major impulse leg goes, we're going to follow that, so on and so forth. So I want to get curious here in my review, and I want to see, all right, just following swings, was there a trade possible that I could have done and seen simply? Was there something I didn't notice? And so I'm playing now. Now maybe I'll start with this, I'll start with this amount of data here. I'll go like that, and I'll try to learn something. Oh, that's contraction, expansion. But if I just go like this and drag it around, this looks very familiar. This is what that Aussie chart looked like, didn't it? This looks very familiar. See, there's the structure. Ding, 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 right, Phil? But this is how I want everybody to think about, and, you can go here, you can go here. I like this one because it's a multi-pivot line. See how it's capturing the most pivots in here? You can go here, you can go here, and ding, ding, ding. I just learned that, and I learned that this kind of structure shows up quite often in a market. Even though this is like this was the last swing there. And so I just learned that. And it's like, oh, cool. And then I can do the minor swings. And see what I can learn from that. Say, okay, the minor swing broke and basically doubled out. Now, if I were to say, all right, how might I get an entry around here? I can still use swings. Remember, I'm doing review work. I'm trying to show you how to go back slowly and do review work. So I already know price went down. So now what I am is I'm curious, about the read of this market. So I already know that this is about the length of the swing. Now I have the ability to do swings on the way up. Say like that, like that. So I'm watching. New high. Okay, I'm doing swings on the way up. And change. Now, a typical trade for me would be looking at something no matter where you got this line, a typical trade would be using swings, looking at something like this now. Okay, we're not doing the red anymore, and where can I get in somewhere, because I'm going to wait for it. So a typical trade for me would be something like this, right? Where can I get in and get a stop that I can afford? 25 ticks isn't bad. That might give me 3 to 1. 80 ticks isn't bad. And that shows me some kind of a change in behavior. You know, not to mention I've got this whole gap thing going on, right? Boom, boom. So this might be some place I would consider, you know, putting my money on the line based on this story. And so I'm just doing my review work. Of course it's hindsight, but it's time to learn. So you can take whatever lessons you have, and you can see however crazy you were at the time, and take those into next week, and then the next week, and then the next week. That's how, you know, when I see a particular structure, I pretty much know it automatically. And yeah, it was a beautiful little wash, right, Phil? I mean, we can go something like this. Just this is like our little model, isn't it? You know, boom, boom. Always good sight of my hind. I don't want to see your hind, Edward. If you could see it, something wrong with you. Not sure. But you guys get what I'm saying? And then we'll see what happens. You know, it didn't even give you a chance. But, okay, you know, that happens too. And so you need to be able to see that. It didn't even give you a chance to get up that high. And I don't know how low you want to chase it here, you know. You know, the truth is, even if you do the wash like Phil says, you're probably not going to get filled. But, okay, you still want to be able to see that. You still want to be able to see what went on there and how you could do a trade. And like I said, we'll do this review lesson in a step-by-step fashion one day. But just take what you know and then go over the market, but take your time. And if it stops here, you can also get curious and say, and reverse engineer it. What stopped it? What can I learn? Oh, the gap. And then if I spend enough time and I see, oh, there's another gap. And then I'll remember my minor and the major lessons here. And so now the whole thing, and then, you know, the other thing that comes up for me is this whole squishing that happens. This whole squishing that goes on and then expands like that. And so it's playtime a little bit and just learn and take your time. And not only that, I also will walk these things through, walk the pivot through bar by bar, just to get a feel for what a pivot looks like. You know, I'll see this tail, I'll see this tail. So I'll just go through it bar by bar. Okay, those are buyers, those are buyers, those are buyers. There's another tail, and here we go. And I'll watch. And I want to get there's a tail hard down. Testing, 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 stalling, 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 testing. Outside. And then back up. Just the fact that it couldn't get back up shows me what? It's pretty weak. It's pretty weak if it can't even give it a good little try here. Mike says, it gives you an idea for a stop. Yeah, absolutely, right? Because now you got to stop. You got this whole thing that you can do for a stop. It's a whole swap, guys. You know, there's a whole swap going down here from this gap. There's a whole swapperoo. It doesn't give us all of our official components, but it's pretty close. But it is a whole swap. The mountain does not hold. Just watch. Watch this. Does it hold? Yes. Gap, hold. gap doesn't hold. Okay. And here we have a major, major, and a minor. And so something has changed. So at least we have some idea on the minor something has changed. And then we have something of, that's basically a confirmation for entering ourselves into that swing. Hi, Steve. Have you ever experimented with attaching the line to the high and low close rather than the actual high and low? I've been working with this and finding it interesting. Yeah, you can do that, Steve. Actually, if you want to do that, just put it on a line chart that gets the closes. And so, Steve's pretty steeped, and Steve T's pretty steeped in Andrews. One of the things, if you use a line chart, one of the things it shows you, watch. Because a line chart is actually just using the closes. It shows you the meat. See? It shows you the meat of things. But to tell you the truth, Steve, you can actually just look at the line chart and not futz with the closes and look for the meat of a multi-pivot line, the meat of it. And what I like to do is just make it a zone like that. Do you get that, Steve? And you can do that with your Andrews lines as well. You can do that with your Andrews lines as well. You follow me? So don't be afraid to make it a zone. One of the things we get a problem in, watch, this is one of the places we get hung up. Remember what I did here with, here's my modified shift, right? If I put it here, I get this. I'd like to catch the meat and put it here. If I do that and I'm waiting for the line, it never hits. If I put it at the absolute low, and probably you should just pick something consistent for yourself. Maybe just use the low and don't worry about it. And then you can actually go to the width. But you see how it moves this and changes what you might want to do? Because, okay, now it hasn't tested the line, so I can't trade. But you know what? You might be off by something. Okay? And so it's much better to just actually do something like this and just make a big fat zone out of the thing than to worry about the close or this. But I like the closes because the close will grab the meat. Right? The close is going to grab the meat of the move. And so it's not a bad way just to change your visual. I fully support Steve experimenting with that stuff. So keep experimenting. But other than that, the closes, especially on an intraday time frame, maybe on a daily, but even that gets jacked around at the end of the day. Because it can be kind of arbitrary. And I see John posted a chart. Well, see, John's already working. John's experimenting and learning. I haven't done that line in a while, John, but John is taking things and he's learning. He's watching. He's like, look at that. Isn't that the same line we just drew here? Do you see that, John? It's the same deal. New high. This is what, and this is actually our next method we're talking about. New high. This is where it bumps before it makes it. Okay. This is where it bumps before it makes it, and that's that same line. So, John, take your idea next and move it down and see what happens. Gap swap on the line. And you can see it, right? Look at it. It's good. This is good. See? Boom. Zoom. Test. It's a good line. Aha, right? Good. And then zoom. Retest. You have a solid line here that you can do all sorts of things with. You have a solid line there. Yeah. And what it's trying to do is the same thing median lines are trying to do. You're just fixing a center. And the other thing I would do with this, John, is play. Okay, now that you've got a frequency, okay? Now that you've got a frequency, take it to these pivots. Interesting. Interesting. Take it to these pivots and play. And you can do that on the upward or the downward. And so this is all good, fun, interesting thing. And you can action, reaction it, and play, and you can learn a little bit of something about what this is trying to do. It's trying to show you half, half, double, double. See that, John? Half, half, double, double. And so this helps us get an understanding of swings. Just don't get lost in it for practical trading. That's all. Because all you see for practical trading, all you really needed was to see something about this projection and to see if you had a way in. Hey, Evan, the sound's cutting off. I think that's just for you. I think your brain's sticking. I don't think anybody else got it, because Edward would have yelled at me for sure. Yeah, for sure. Good here, Gina. All right, cool. So just a little bit of learning on that. Now, one more learning thing, because we do a lot of things live here, and what we want to do from that live stuff is learn from it, because a lot of it is actionable. So you guys might have forgot. We grabbed this. I think we did this as an afterthought. We grabbed this Euro Swiss, and what we did was talk about the same thing we just talked about in the yen. We talked about, oh, new low, boom, let's use a minor swing to get in for a short trade. So I think we talked about this a couple Wednesdays ago. And then we just got out of that. And we did this. This is the work. I didn't change it. All right, this is the work. We just got out of that. And we said, let's look and see what the market's doing. And what did we find? We find it's making these swings, and we found it's making gaps and pushing. Gaps and pushing. And this was the last gap we marked. Does anybody remember that? I know probably not a lot of people trade the Euro Swiss. But if you have the ability to watch it, you want to get real curious. Well, what happens next? These are our markings. We were saying, okay, this was the last major swing, and these were the minor swings. Look at, guys, we have a map. We have a map for learning. The importance isn't in the technique itself. We could have used any. We just looked at the chart simply and said, oh, look, gaps are holding. If you can go, oh, gaps are holding, making new lows, you can go, oh, gaps aren't doing that anymore. That's important to be able to do. You watched Phil but didn't take it? I have to admit, I didn't watch till afterwards. I was pretty busy, but I'm pretty sure I would have grabbed that one. I'm pretty sure I would have grabbed that one. But let's get a feel. Right? It's all over now, right, Phil? You didn't get it. I didn't get it. But now we can learn and see what happened. But I'm glad you watched. I'm happy you watched. Because it's especially if it's live, it's different when you see it after the fact or I'm showing you. Live, you can see what you see in the live? I can already guess because I see it so many times. I can already guess what's going to happen into this gap. What you want to see in the live is what actually happens. And what often happens if this is going to hold is price does something like this and then gets everybody excited and elicits them long. You get a very quick, fast And that's very valuable for you to watch and experience. Because that's the kind of thing that makes up a pivot. That's what we just saw on the yen. Remember? And when you see it over and over and over, Gina says it's an emotional bar. Absolutely. You know what it's like, Gina, when you're watching that? I get emotional too, right? You know what it feels like, you know? Even if you're all set to short it, there's this, wait a minute, I'm not going to short that, right? Because it goes up fast. There's this whole thing that goes counter to everything we've been teaching, and it's going to happen, and it's important to experience that. It's important to experience that and see, been faked out often enough so that now I get curious, and that's the perfect attitude to bring to it, curiosity. And it's not just that we get faked out. I can't tell you how many of these I thought was along and wanted to mark it in maybe 10, 15 years ago when I was doing that. I got to get in real quick because I'm going long now. I was planning a short, but I'm going long now. And so it's worse than a fake out, right, when you're the one that gets bagged because you think you're about to miss something or you just convinced yourself. Now, it's no good just to talk about the emotional thing. Does everybody get they're going to get that emotional thing when the bars freak out? Does everybody get that? It's not just me? Even though you're planning something, the thing's rolling into your face like a freight train? Yeah, okay. Has anybody ever had that screw with their mind enough that they've kind of changed their trade plan? Yes? Good, because every one of my students have. And then afterwards, did you feel really stupid and frustrated about it? Because you keep doing it over and over? Yes, I get a lot of yeses. And if you're at home, play along, please. Grace, oh yeah, I was wondering where you were at, Grace. I was beginning to think you were just too super cool for this one. All right, so that happens. Now, okay, first thing we do is describe it. First thing you shut up never, right? First thing we do is describe it. And we see that it's going on. Now, what do we do about it, right? Do we go take some NLP lessons or something? You know, play Beethoven? Phil says, oh, crap. I'll give you a very simple, and there's a little something that will work for everything. Because what actually is happening is our minds go into a little freeze, a little protection mode freeze. Because there's a threat all of a sudden, you know, right or wrong. And even just putting a trade on, our minds can go into this little freeze thing. And then we end up with some confusion at the time, right? Con is with and fuse, so we're fusing different things together. We end up with, and then at the end of the session, we look and we say, dang. I call it eliciting, Phil, right? Because it elicits your emotion. And now that it's important that you all understand this in your experience, because we'll all feel it a little different. But we freeze up, so I think I've described it. But it's very important that you get it going on in your experience and understand what I'm talking about. So we can't just talk about these things. You know me, that's no good. We have to think about what we can do. And so really, everybody's going to be a little bit different, but I'll give you some simple. All right? First, you have to know you're reaching that edge. So you're going to have to pay attention a little bit to yourself. You got to know you're reaching that edge where you're feeling confusion. Because if you know, at least you can stop yourself for a minute from flailing around. So first you have to recognize, yeah, I'm getting to that point. I'm starting to blank out and freeze. And then the next thing you can do, whenever you're flustered, first you have to recognize you're flustered. Whenever you're flustered or a little confused, there's a couple very simple things you can do to at least bring yourself back. So if I get here, let's see what price does here for a second. Let's see if we can set this up. And I'm thinking about shorts. Hell, even Shane said it, right? We lined it up here. And so I'm thinking about shorts, and I'm watching this. And everything is happening, just like Shane talks about. And I get that. And it's going, yay. And now my emotions are starting to kick in. I can go to a trade plan and hold discipline. But once you see you're flustered, what you can do is ask yourself a simple question to at least bring yourself back out of the confusion. I was talking about this with a student the other day. You can just ask yourself, what are the facts, Jack? All right? So the one thing that conquers fear, is truth. And when I say what is the truth, I'm going to say whatever you happen to be using. If you're using swings, you're using swings. If you're using gaps, you're using gaps. So here we're using swings and gaps. So if I was to ask what is the truth, I would say gaps are holding and new lows. And then I would say, all right, what is the truth about swings? Oh, crap. I just messed that up. That's all right, we'll do it verbally. I would say the truth is we are about the same size as the last major swing. Now, this isn't like a end-all, catch-all, but that little pause in asking what's the truth can be enough for you to regain your center, regain your equilibrium, your mental equilibrium, because truth will always dissipate fear, if you can see it. And so since you know how to do some simple things, you can just ask, what is the truth? Now, that doesn't mean the trade's going to absolutely work for you, but I can tell you one thing, when you do put on a trade, when I do put on a trade, you want to have a clear head. See, if I got a clear head and I get stopped, I'm not happy about it, but all's good. If I get stopped, I don't have a clear head, if it's a winning trade and I don't have a clear head, then it's just something that happened by accident. That's not good either. And so it's just a simple technique. Just ask yourself, what is the truth via what I'm looking at? Or what are the facts, Jack? And it's enough to put a stick in the spokes of our minds going, zzz, because trading, we put a lot on the line, right? That's a very important distinction, Grace says, that I have definitely experienced. Yes, good. And so you can pause, you can go take a little walk, whatever works for you. You can just take a couple deep breaths in your belly, and that can do it. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, Everybody's going to go splash some water on your face. Just get out of the confusion for a moment. But I found that I can just ask, what is the truth? And that will begin to calm me down out of that, being elicited out of that. And, maybe not all the way, but at least it stalls you a little bit. And so we all know when we get in that mode. It's not just in trading. We get in that mode a lot of times. There's an old saying, never miss a good opportunity to shut up. Because if you're all emotional and angry, you're going to say something you're going to regret in some way. And it's no different with our trades. Trades, life, it's all the same thing, guys. Really. It's all the same thing. And so that's kind of what's important about these lessons here, is that it's not just a technique. If it was just techniques, you know what? I could build a site. I could post a few courses, say do this, do that, go away, go trade. But that doesn't get to the juice of it, because no matter what you know, if your mind starts to freeze, and everybody goes through it, you're not going to see anything, and you're going to go through what we just talked about. You're going to look at it later and say, I know that, I did that again. You're going to get frustrated, beat yourself up, and as soon as that happens, no learning happens. It's very important to learn. It's very important to learn. So these are the little added lessons we get to. On top of here are the gaps. We just marked it out. But if you just hit this thing with a mark, and then the trade worked for you, then you're going to get limited learning out of that. But if you actually watched it and felt it and went through all the things, I know traders all like to seem like they're all super cool, but we're all crazy. I don't care who you are. So let's get a feel for the story. Price hits the gap we marked. This swing failed and tried. And so basically you can see this like this. And this is where that line comes from, John Lee, that you were looking at also. This is that same idea, by the way, John. Right? This is kind of, it tried, boom. You were looking at it in a similar fashion, right? So it's just we tried and then boom. And then look, all I'm doing here is, the same thing we did on the end. Doesn't this look like the end we just looked at? Pivot? I'm pretty sure. Look at the shape of that guy. Doesn't that look similar? Yes. Okay. That's learning. Pivot. Now the Euro Swiss got nothing to do with the yen. But a 20-minute yen and then a 200 or 120-minute euros got the same thing going on. Okay. So maybe that's not something that gives you an immediate setup, but that's something that goes into our experience, goes into our bones. It's the same thing. And this one does give you a retest. And then, you can consider. I don't know if there's a good 3-to-1 trade available in here or not. You can draw your lines, so on and so forth. And think about it. And, that's current. But do you see the story of it making a minor high, watch, making a minor high into the gap that's controlling, and then not continuing, and then making a last swing broke. That's like this, close to the same. Do you guys see the switcheroo? Just like the yen, right? There's a little switcheroo there. And so there's a story in here. And it's not just technical. They made a nice poke here. They made a swing. They didn't even try. They just kind of stalled, blew it out. Look at the bars. Look at the bars here. Look at the same illicit moves. See it? Gap up, gap down. See the same thing that makes a pivot? Over and over and over again. That's that illicit. Boom. Just like that. Now, what we can do is keep following this market. One thing we know is that, when we get to the top of one of these swings and make a gap, they're holding. They're holding. So we have this gap now. And I see another gap. So I'm going to get curious. Yeah, new gap, right? This one kind of feeds into this one, Raj. So I'm just going to kind of hold the whole thing like that. Gap, retest. And we can see, watch. Remember the try we did here? Now this is for you, John, right? You can turn the wheel. It tried there. It tried there. And then it made a new low. So try that in your practice, John. So you started with that one line. But actually, watch the try, fail. Watch the try, fail. Watch the try, fail. And then keep turning that wheel as it goes. So just something to play with, and then we'll do lessons on it. So let's move this thing live over here. And yeah, I would have hit that trade up here someplace. Just working with somebody, I was short up here, so I made a little dough. So we'll keep watching what the market is continuing to do. We don't need these guys anymore. We already know it's continuing that. Okay, we'll keep watching. Maybe we'll look at the size of this swing as it's doing its thing. And we'll see, that's next week's business. So that's interesting, interesting follow-up work. We haven't had a chance to do the oil tick charts yet, guys, but we will. But it looks like you guys in oil are having a good time if you're on the right side. We haven't had a chance to do this yet, but we'll get back to some of these tick charts next week, I think, because I know a lot of you guys are on the tick charts. But it looks like oil is just wake up and sell oil. Thank you, Edward, right? Wake up and sell oil and you're all good. And that's really, it's just making these little itty bitty swings, huh, Edward? Let's just do this. As long as we're, see, it doesn't take long. Okay, it doesn't take long. Let's just, it doesn't take long just to do that. And then just to notice interesting things, doesn't take long. And by the way, Edward, you see the gap in the gap, the same way we've been doing it, right? Gap, gap. So like one's a minor, and then, one's a major up here. All right. So, and I kind of like to do charts like this, Edward, because, if you get too wrapped up on the point of contact every day and too focused, it's, it's easy to just get too involved in it. And you tick traders know, watching the NASDAQ and such, it's real easy just to get completely sucked in, involved with it, and, lose sight of things. So, it's good to get off that point once in a while. All right, one little thing I want to watch live, and then I'm going to do the little lesson on the framework. One more little thing. I want us to take a look at just, learning-wise. Okay, just learning-wise. So remember we talked about the pound on Wednesday. We talked about, mapping out the swings, telling a story, and so forth. I think we left it here, right? We were doing this, 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 this. All right. So we were following the red swings. Everybody on board with me? We were following the red swings. We talked about sort of a simple, easy to see gap push trade, following the red swings. Okay, Raj, what did we learn here? Now, just look at what did Price just teach us based on our simple map? Red got beat. It's that simple, isn't it? Isn't that cool? Red got beat. Red got beat. That's it. That's simple. It's not doing red anymore. That doesn't mean it won't come up here and do blue like Ricardo was looking at, but it ain't doing red no more. Okay? I don't know. It might do this whole big thing. We don't know. But it ain't doing red no more. We do know that. Now, we could, this gives us a simple choice. All right? This gives us a simple choice. And look at that bar. This is that bar, right, Gina? This is that bar. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's that chase. If we look, it comes off one of our previous, press lessons here. Press, press, press. Expand. All right, so this is that bar. Now, if you're set up like this, guys, all right, we know red got beat. If you just mark the gap, you could possibly sell this. If red got beat, and you could possibly sell this, there's a possible sell here. where is there a possible buy? And since we can read the language, what would we call it? Very good, John. I didn't know anybody was paying attention. Buy the bar press. We can buy. Remember the three types of trades there, Ricardo? So basically, if we say we got this gap, all right, and we were thinking about types of trades on this gap, and we'll review that lesson again. We could say we can either sell for the push, sell for the expand, continue, or buy. But we can also, it's the same as a V setup, Stephen. Yeah, it's the same type of thing. But even if it's a V or a gap, it's still going to have this push on the V, a try, a type 2, and a type 3. And so the try, what I'm saying is the try option is this thing is trying to make a new low, but you're going to maybe go against it for at least that. And that would be the try. So you can see with this simple framework we got going here. Red got beat. We know that. Okay. If I wanted to attempt a try, where might we go? We can draw a modified shift to help us, since it is a V. Steve's referring to the V lessons, but that one's pointing upward. But maybe we can do that. But we can also, where red got beat, we can think about where red got beat. But also, I want you also see the engulfing. You see the tail, right? There's a whole. I usually just take this whole thing and make it a green like that for the try. But do you see how this would make some sort of a sense in here? And you see the smaller swing rods, right? But you can see the tail, and then zoom. What got zoomed is basically what you can ask. You can see it drive and then go zoom. What got zoomed? If you have to, you can just make this a gap, or you can make it a press or whatever. But if you have to, you can just make this a gap if you want. But I want to go beyond the technical and say, zoom, what got zoomed? I want to feel them. Okay? I want to feel them. I want to say, oh, sellers, this is a little tail here. Sellers hit this. This is a little tail I can mark out. What happens? This is a tail. It's the equivalent of a tail. It's like mirror bars, except it's engulfing mirror bars. And then I can watch, and I can say, oh, look, another tail. This is validating. Price is validating my projection. So I projected, I predicted, and price is validating it by saying, yeah, there's sellers here. See, this is important to the story. This is important to real trading. Real trading has nothing to do with probability setups. This is important that we understand and we feel like traders, because this is the only way it's going to work. You have to read it. You have to understand it. And so, oh, yes, sellers. And we can, just because we can mark out a tail. They don't make a new low. They're trying. They're trying. Zoom. Pop. Who got popped? These guys got zoomed. Okay. So now I know if I want to. Good thing we didn't jump, Gina. Now I know if I want to do a try, it will be somewhere in this neighborhood. Somewhere in this neighborhood. And then I would gauge and I'd look and say, can I get a stop underneath? Okay. A lot of volatility in the end. I can get real close. But whether that's your trade or not, you have an option now. Sell it. Buy it. And you know what? The sell makes some sense. Although I'd be more comfortable with the sell if we were up here and it did that. And you know what? The buy makes some sense, although it's been kind of dangerous to buy this market. The buy makes some sense. Why? Because the red got beat. You've got, hey Grace, you've got the LSB. Oh, you mean this little guy too? Oh, good. Is that what you're pointing to? Oh, I didn't even catch that, Grace. See that? Grace has been practicing her swings. Good for you. Yes, right? She's seeing it, it's small, but she's seeing the subtlety. Beautiful, see? No wonder she ate my lunch a few times on those trades. So that's another place to look. And so that would be like a gauge, but then this would be, we're looking at these, where these guys sold. And so this whole neighborhood then becomes a possible try if we wanted to do something like that. Now, if I was to frame a trade, that's easy. I'm just saying, aha, this is a major swing, this whole thing. This is a minor, this is a micro then. And then I would do something like this perhaps. See, now I'm using more data than I did on Wednesday. And I'm thinking, if I get in here, yeah, that's a 3-to-1. That might get me somewhere back in over here. I'm going against the grain. Or if I'm shorting, I'm looking at something more like this. See how that works too? So either one, I'm not saying which. I'm saying let's learn, okay? We hit this, and we're current. Stay tuned. What's that they used to say? Stay tuned. So interesting, right? And even if you're just somebody who gets caught up on that bar, this is a good lesson for you. I get caught up on that. It's not like, I'm robotic without emotions. I get caught up on that bar, but it's more like I can see it quickly and not take that particular emotion as seriously. All right? It shows up. It's just, there you are again. I don't take it as serious. It's not such a driving factor that's making a slave out of me. And that takes a little time and work to do. That takes a little time. Emotions are going to pop up. You're never going to get rid of them. They got jobs to do. Don't take their jobs away from them. But notice that happens. And when you begin to know yourself in the market, you also begin to know others. And so then you can, take advantage of them, for lack of a better way to say it. This is a game. This is a competition, guys. You're there to take somebody's lunch, but all you're really doing is going with the aggregated flow of price when somebody might not be, and somebody might need to learn some more lessons about their emotions. All right, so maybe help them out a little bit. So any way you want to turn that and look at it that makes you feel better. But this is trading. You're trading. All right, so that's pretty cool. All right, so that's next week's biz. Now what I'm going to do here, we are going to go into learning a simple method. We're going to go into this next week, but I'll give you the basic instructions for it today. Okay, I'll give you the basic instructions for it today. We'll pick something. Let's go pick on the euro maybe. Let's up this time frame. Let's do a 240. There we go. All right. I'm going to start this with this slide. And we're going to go deeper into this. But I'm going to give you the basic instructions today. We're going to start this with this slide, because this is kind of how we started our whole show. What we're going to do is create, go over, learn several different methods and techniques in the market. All right? Frameworks or methods, not setups, but methods, like we're going to use gaps, or we're going to use swings, or we're going to use Vs, or whatever. And just like the Euro Swiss, the gold isn't in the method. The gold is that the method helps you learn. The method helps filter things out for you, helps take the intensity out. The method helps you see and learn from price and about yourself. That's where the juice is. Because no method will work in the end. None do. There's no way. The market's moving. The market's changing. None of them work. We'll just start with that. And so it's very important. I'm going to babble about this again on Monday, that we start from the right place, not expecting that this setup works or this probability works. Now, these methods we're developing are all supply, demand. They're on specific events that are happening in the market. And so we'll go back over this. We're going to look at pressure cookers, okay? This is something I haven't taught in our sessions formally, although we've talked about it. But I often work them with students. So now we're going to do it formally. And we'll probably spend a few weeks on it doing that. And it's very, very simple. So we're just going to start on this very simple instructions today. Now, all we need to do, number one, very simple instructions. And we're going to make a method, meaning we're pretty much going to view the market this way without adding a whole lot of other complications and stuff. We're just going to kind of view it through this lens work here. And so the simple instructions are, number one, we're going to identify a confirmed swing. Everybody knows how to do that. A new confirms a high. Confirms a low. It's easy. So you come over here, new low, confirmed swing. Any swing, I don't care. Use whatever you got. That's the first instruction. The next thing is, and I'm going to ask you guys to help me articulate, clarify, and tighten up these instructions as we go. Because I'm not just going to do all the work. We're going to create and learn. I'm going to learn, even though we've been doing this for years. I'm going to learn as well. So the next thing is, to where it launched itself from. So I'll explain that. It's very simple. And then we'll go over the thing in detail. So if we take this apart, and John, this is kind of what we've just been doing. Remember, John, we've been looking at where this thing tries. Remember when we've been drawing that line? This is how you started. So it's kind of like this, okay? Look, see, it's going to give it that little try here, and then like that. Okay, now forget the line and just follow the instruction. So now you're going to follow price back into the previous swing. Edward, can't you get Howard to give me a spell check? Come on, you could bug him. Somebody bug Howard. Say, I can't stand it. Shane can't spell. You can't get him to do anything. I know some of you guys have gotten him to do some things. You don't listen to me. So you're going to follow it back up, right? Easy to identify. Then you're just going to follow it back up. This is where it launched itself from. It's like a gap. And then you're just going to, I'm just going to call it then draw a red box. Now, and especially for some of you that like the one-line press work stuff like Rita, this is a natural progression from the presses. It's just putting the presses in a particular place. And so this is actually a natural progression. So if you'll notice, this will often be just like a bar level press here. Okay? And so it's very easy. You follow it back up, draw a red box, then make observations, okay? When I say consider, what do you guys think I'm about to say here? Consider what? When price gets to the red box. Because, you know, we got to have a way to do a little research here. So we have to frame things up. That's right, Aaron, right? Consider the 3 types of trades when it gets there. Now we have a way to do a little research. So consider 3 types of trades and try. And we want to observe and learn. And as we go through the next weeks, we're going to model each one of these out. We're going to find actual examples. We're going to draw models up. We're going to draw models down. We're going to find type 1, type 2, type 3, the try going up, going down. We're going to see what it looks like all funky, okay, in price flow. And we're going to practice, and we're going to learn maybe the principles of it and what it's doing and why we should even bother. And look, this is simple, right? Imagine you're looking at nothing but this. Nothing but this. It's a very good way to calm our mind. Now, it's not going to get you a trade every 5 minutes. And obviously, the smaller in the swings you get, you know, you're not going to get a good launch. Now, I have to add a lot of details to this, but those are the simple instructions. Look on the chart that we have here and see if you can do this. Does anybody see where the swing will be and the red box will be? You see it, Edward? Good. See, it's simple, right? It's a very good way to orient yourself to price. And it has some, it's a particular event. It's a supply-demand event that's happening that's showing us, you know, where these guys are marking their territory for certain things. It's showing us what? Where the real support and resistance is, where they decided, you know what, we're going to break that dang low. They're showing us where they made the decision. And one of the other beauties about this is it's kind of non-threatening at this point because it's easy. You don't have to guess. All you have to do is look for a confirmed swing and follow it up. It's right there. You just need to recognize it. And so if I was to do that on this chart, it would be something like this. Is this true? I have a confirmed swing. Yes, that's true. Boom, boom. Now the next thing I'll do, and if you're at home, you know, play along if you're watching the recording, and take it, now follow it back up. You know, follow it back up to where it got thrown off the cliff. So you follow it back up into the swing, above the low. And say, where did this thing really get tossed? And then you come up with a few ambiguities, okay? Was it here or was it here? And we're going to have to all work that out a little bit as we go. I'm going to say, where do you guys think the decision to toss this thing came from? Was it here or was it here? And tell me why. Anybody? Because I'm trying to figure out where to put the box. So let's just reason this one out. Let's work it as a problem. There's really no problems if we approach it the right way. Just look for truth. The higher one, Aaron says, and great, why? Because it gapped down, Pete says. So I'm looking for where they decided, you know what, we're going to pound this low right through. It already happened, but I'm looking for where they decided that. Buyers were holding and broke, John says. Yeah, see right here, this is another gap, but it looks to me that the decision, see, it's already in motion here, isn't it? The tail marked the buyers there, and then they tried the hardest there. Absolutely. But look here, Aaron. Right here, it's already in motion, right? Here, they're still thinking about it, right? Maybe. And then look at that. Right there. Decision made. Right there on this bar. Exactly, right? Good. And so we want to understand that. Swaps the tail to the left, John says. Oh, yeah, beautiful, right, John? You're really seeing a lot of things. But be careful, John. Make sure you're not going to, what you're seeing, John, is one structure creates the next. But make sure you don't end up seeing too much and getting overwhelmed with something that can be simple. Everybody's a little bit different, right? Just make sure you're blind. Just make sure you're not seeing too much. So we want to always just start with simple, and then if this stuff falls on your lap, beautiful, right? You see the tail, you see the gap, you see the, we can actually see, John, we can actually see this whole thing right here, like this. Zoom, retest, And that's what created this pressure cooker, right here. But this is where they've decided. Here, they're still in free fall. They're in motion. So I would go with this one. But we do need to talk about these little things. And that's it. And now we make observations. And we can follow these things. David says, why not the earlier gap, this one up here? Is that what you're pointing to, David? Or this one? Because they did throw it off the cliff here, right? Yes. Okay. That comes in one of the rules and explanations on Monday. We want to get the last try before the low. Does that make sense? See, up here, we want to get the last try as before the low. We want to get the, not the, we want to get the last real, but it's a good question. We want to get the last real try before the, I agree it tries here. So we're not just doing gaps here. They didn't take out that buy tail swing yet to the left. That's true, right, Stephen? That's all part of my explanation. Good. I see you guys are so freaking good here. I'm having trouble keeping up with you. All right. Now, Stephen says at this point they didn't even take that out yet. But we want to get that, and I'll explain this as we go. But this is good. So don't get too intense with this right now. Just sort of follow the basic instructions and play, and then observe. That's current. All right, so that's what it looks like. Because these things, they offer a type 1, type 2, a type 3 in particular markets, in particular types of momentum markets or whatever. So you see this would have been the try. So if you took the old college try here, you probably could have at least had a chance and got yourself to break even, and this was the push. Okay, good. So that's the basic thing here, and we'll expand on that come Monday. When price pulls back to the backside of the one line connecting the last try, the box of sellers pushed got washed. When price pulls back to the backside of the one line connecting the last try, oh, look at that. That's nice, huh? But you're jumping the gun on me. All right. I can't keep up with you guys. We're just going to stick to the box because now you're going too fast for me. You guys are going to have to. It's been a long week. You guys are going to have to save it for Monday. I'll be rested by then. So this is it. Just sort of keep it simple. All right. And John, since you're already tuned, you can practice with this part. But just keep it simple, and you can do some investigations. And this would have been the try. And, you know, we could see what happened, you know, with the push and all that. And that's current. And it's a very good way to follow the market. So, Rita, thank you. I'm glad you're happy to be here. She says, good weekend to everybody. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate you guys all showing up these last 2 weeks. And I'm working. I'm hoping to see most of you here on Monday. Okay, thank you for showing up, Gina. I always appreciate it, John. So you guys have a good weekend. Stay out of trouble. Be good or be good at it, one way or the other. All right, you guys take care.